Hey guys, I've just played a fascinating training game against my sparring partner Andrew Shukov, rated around 2100 ELO over the board. As you may know, on my road to the FIDE Master title, I regularly train, spar once a week. We play training games with Andrew, and this game was really exciting. It was no exception from the rest of them. You can, by the way, check them out all in the channel, my recaps. So today I was playing with the white pieces and Andrew chose the Sicilian, and we got a very instructive endgame. So let's dive into this. So e4, c5, as you may remember, last time Andrew chose the Alekhines defense with knight f6, and it was not a good position for him out of the opening, so he decided to switch. I go knight c3, my usual setup against the Sicilian, and this is a theoretical position. I'm fine with black taking the bishop because I have a lead in development. Black will have the two bishops advantage while I will be faster developed. I chose the same setup against Vladimir Kramnik, former world chess champion. You might have seen my podcast with him, and the game at the end was really impressive. Kramnik was impressed, told me that I played a fascinating, very interesting game. So check out the podcast and the game. Links are all in the description. But Andrew chose a different approach. He didn't take my bishop. He decided to fianchetto his bishop, which is also one of the main moves in the position. Here we exchange. I attack the pawn. So the pawn should be protected by the bishop. And I go c3. All standard. The position is around equal. But there is room for improvisation over the board for both sides. He kicks my bishop away. I drop back to d3. Yes, for the time being, I'm blocking my d-pawn from advancing, but it's not a problem because once he takes, I'll take with the d-pawn and my bishop will be free to go. But he strikes with d5. This move really surprised me because I thought, is he really sacrificing a pawn to me? So I calculated some variations and I decided, yeah, probably he is. And I took with the knight. So the idea is that if he takes with the bishop, which he can do now or later, I can just check him on a4 and it will be a fork. And once he blocks, let's say bishop d7, I take on d4. And this is better than taking the bishop immediately here because that would give me doubled pawns. And also he can win the pawn back with queen d4 immediately. So that's not good. So that's what I calculated. And I thought maybe he didn't see queen a4, but turns out he saw it. He just wanted to spice things up, and he took on e4 first. I took back, and here he took on d4. And I thought was some time and decided, you know what, okay, I'll do the same thing. I will take on d4. And he will take, and we will get into an endgame where I'm up a pawn. I have the two bishops advantage. Yes, both of those pawns are weak and not too impressive. And also they are isolated d-pawns. So if you put a knight in front of them, like on d5, for example, like knight f6 and knight d5, no pawn can dislodge this knight. So I don't have a c pawn, I don't have an e pawn, so d5 is an ideal square for the knight. So black has some compensation. Stockfish says it's plus 0.45. So it's not plus 1 as it would be under normal circumstances when one side is up one pawn. But it shows that there is compensation. So he attacks my bishop. Here I thought about going d3 because if he takes, he helps me straighten up my pawn structure, but I decided to drop back with the bishop for the time being. This bishop eyes this pawn and hinders development for that bishop on c8, so it cannot go out before protecting this pawn. But my opponent was not interested in that. He just went e6, and I immediately realized his plan to just block this d5 square with the knight and ask me, what you gonna do? What you gonna do? Come and get me. Come on, come on. Are your pawns going like forward, like trying to dislodge me? Pawns go forward, yes, but they don't take forward. So it's a bad idea. So here I was like, is he really blocking me, and am I unable to do anything at all? This sucks, frankly. So I decided, you know what, I'll take his knight once it goes to d5, and I will enter an opposite side bishop because what else can I do? So I go b3, he goes knight d5. I go bishop a3 first, preventing him from castling. I'm not sure if he wants to castle here in the endgame. Maybe he wants to keep this king in the center, but still I decided, you know what, let me prevent the castling. He goes bishop d7, and now it's obvious that his next move will be bishop c6. And here I took an important strategic decision, which is supported by the computer, by the way. I took the knight with my bishop and exchanged and went into this interesting endgame. So the problem for me, if I don't do that, is that, for example, let's say I just go castles. He'll go bishop c6. And then if I do nothing, like, I don't know, let me go g3, for example. He'll go knight to, let's say, e7. And if I trade on c6, then later on, if I do nothing, if I just stand idly, like push my pawns, he'll just go, of course, here he can take the pawn, but let me just give you an example. He'll just go here, and if I don't take him, if I just stand idly, he'll go knight to d5. And look at the quality of this knight and this bishop. This bishop, yes, it looks menacing, but it's shooting in thin air. It's doing nothing. Here it will be looking at its own pawn, so not too impressive. And this knight is a powerful piece. I would take, honestly, black here in this position, and already the computer gives plus 0.1. So equality, despite the fact that white has an extra pawn. So, and I realized his next move will be bishop c6, then he'll trade off my light squared bishop, and I will no longer be able to do anything to this knight of his. So I decided, you know what, I'll destroy it while I can. And here I took this pawn. So that was the position. Instead of castling, I took the knight. He took back, of course, and I castled here. So in endgames, usually you should keep your king in the center, but I was considering actually going king d1, but I thought I don't want to allow any checks by his bishop, any attacks, because opposite sides bishop positions are notoriously dangerous if you get attacked, because you are practically playing down a piece. If you are attacked on the light squares, for example, you don't have any piece to block this attack, because your dark squared bishop cannot see the light squared bishop. It's like mutual blindness, and they can run circles around each other, but they cannot do anything to each other. So yeah, that's why I decided, you know what, I'll tuck my king away. I'll try to attack him. I have this check, for example, wanting to infiltrate over e7, and I thought, yeah, opposite side bishop endgames are notoriously drawish. Maybe I draw this game, maybe I win it, I'm up a pawn, I'm not risking anything. So let's see if I was correct. Rook c8, rook is taking an open file, and I give him a check. I decided to give him a check first because I wanted to spoil his bishop. He has to block, because otherwise if he goes, for example, here, I have rook e7 infiltrating, and suddenly I'm much better already. So he has to block, and I decided I will do this first, because now his bishop is eyeing its own pawns and not looking too menacing, and it will never be able to go to b5, for example, or f5 and d3, which would be more active positions for the bishop, I thought. And now I block with my bishop. So my idea is the same as one Anatoly Karpov executed in one of his games. I don't remember which one, but it was in the 70s or 80s. So the idea is to block the line with the bishop, and then to put the rooks on the line, on the file, and double up. So Karpov did this on a7, I think. So he put his bishop on a7. This file was open, no pawns on it. And then after putting the bishop on a7, he put one of his rooks on a3, I think, and the other on a1, and then he dropped back with the bishop, and the file was his for grabs. So that was very impressive, a legendary game, positional masterpiece by him. And I decided, you know what, I'll do the same thing. I'll play like Karpov, inspired by him. Actually, did you know that I recorded a podcast with him while still living in Russia before the war? Before I had to leave my country because of the war and risks for me as an opposition blogger. So yeah, fun fact, I know Karpov personally. It's a pity that he voted for the invasion in Ukraine, but it is what it is. Okay, so rook c6, and I go rook c1. So my plan is simple. I double up and all's good. My opponent later after the game told me that he almost blundered with b6. That would be funny, because I can take here. The funny thing is, yes, he can take my bishop, but I have rook c8 check, winning his rook, because this bishop is pinned. So my idea of pinning this bishop and restricting its movement was kind of cunning here. So initially he wanted to go b6, but then he saw that this doesn't work. So he went king d7. Now he wants, now he's able to play b6. But I go rook c3. He doubles up, I double up. And here actually he again cannot play b6, because if he plays b6, I take. And if he takes, I take here. So that's not good. So yeah, again, he is unable to play b6 here. He tries to prepare it. Now the bishop also protects this rook, and he can go b6. If I take, he takes. And he has two protectors of the c8 rook, the bishop and the queen. So b6 is a threat now. I decide, you know what, okay, whatever, b6 is not a big deal. I go f3, creating some loop for my king. I want to activate my king, put it closer to the center, also prevent maybe some infiltration on the e-file if he in future tries to initiate some counterplay. He goes b6. Here I can drop back with the bishop, but I decide to be more clever. The computer actually agrees that my move is better. Bishop e7 check first. So I want to dislodge his king from d8 first, make him go to d7. Again, he cannot take because his rook is hanging 2 times. So he goes to d7, and now and only now do I drop back. So that was my idea, because I thought I could do this immediately after b6. So he made the move b6. I could go bishop a3 immediately. But then I thought that this square could be up for grabs for the bishop, and maybe later on the bishop could rotate over here or over here and be more active. That's why I decided, you know what, I'll give him a check and prevent this. So nothing too crazy, but I was proud of myself. So the position is objectively a draw, because yes, I have an extra pawn, but it's a doubled pawn, isolated pawn, and opposite side, opposite color bishops are usually a draw. But this is a very important, very interesting standoff, face-off between the rooks. They cannot move away. Black rooks cannot move away, because if this rook moves away, I'll take that rook on c8, and if that rook moves away, I'll take that rook on c6. And if he takes me, I'm very happy, because I'll take back with the pawn. And now I've straightened up my structure, and now my pawns support each other. And later on I'll play c4, and I'll have a great position. Still, it should be a draw, but it will be much more difficult for black to defend. So I'm waiting for him to take me. He's waiting for me to take him, because if we exchange all the rooks, for example, he went here h5, and if we exchange all the rooks here, well, we can just call it a day, because this is just a draw. He has no weaknesses. All his pawns are on the light squares, and my bishop cannot attack them. It's just looking in thin air, and yeah, his king is more active than mine, so I cannot win this. But I don't take his rook. I go h4 here, preventing him from advancement. He goes bishop f5, trying to activate. Nice move. In some future, he might go here, for example, and I activate my king, because you should activate your king in endgames. He goes f6. Probably he wants to go g5. And here, for some reason, I was a little bit afraid of this g5 move, although I shouldn't have, because what if he goes g5? Okay, whatever. I'll take. And I'll have this pawn, this square now, because this pawn was protecting this square. And I will be able to go, for example, bishop b2 over protecting the rook, and then going with my rook to e5, and maybe doubling up on the e-file. So that would be very clever. And also, also these pawns might get targets of mine. So still it's drawish, but g5 is not a thing to be afraid of. But here I was really reluctant to allow g5. And I thought, you know what? A couple of moves ago, I thought that exchanging all the rooks would be a stupid idea. I would never win this. But now I see this f6 pawn, and I think that I can take it. And I decided to exchange all the rooks, which was practically not the best decision, frankly. Looking back, I wouldn't take the rook on c6. Wouldn't have taken. So the best way to proceed probably would be to go something like king g3 and trying to go king f4 and g4. The computer still finds that absolutely everything is fine. Rook takes c3 is the move that the computer recommends. Andrew later after the game told me that he saw this and he wanted to go rook e8. The computer absolutely approves of this plan. Actually, Andrew played like a computer this game. Had I not known him personally, I would have thought that something is fishy. But I know that he's an honest guy, just very strong. So this is the plan that Stockfish really likes, because if the rook infiltrates over here, then it gets a bit dangerous for me. Probably c4 is best here, and he can take and infiltrate on e2. And yeah, this is drawish, but at least there is some play for me with c5, d5, but he has also his own play, so that could have happened here. But for some reason, I just didn't like this plan with king g3, and I thought, you know what, let's go into an endgame with just bishops. Maybe I win, maybe I draw. I don't think I'll lose it. So I exchanged all the rooks and went bishop e7. Going after this pawn. And I saw that he has this move that he made, bishop b1. I saw it in advance. But I thought that if I take one of his pawns and he takes one of mine, I will have an opportunity to create a passed pawn over here. Whereas here, he can also create a passed pawn, but he will be a little bit slower. That's what I thought. I completely misevaluated this, by the way. So it was better here probably to go, for example, a3 or here, I think here, instead of taking, a3 would be better, a better attempt. But here I was afraid, I think I was afraid of bishop a2, and if b4, king b5, and he'll take this pawn anyway. And I thought that this is a worse version for me than what happened in the game. But actually I didn't think about the fact that my coach pointed out to me while we reviewed this game, that I can give up this pawn, and this pawn is more important because it's more difficult to get to it. So I can take here, he takes here, and I can do the same things as I did in the game, but here this pawn will get protected by the bishop, and the bishop will have more scope, so that would have been better than what I did in the game. In the game, I decided to give up the a pawn and to leave the b pawn for myself. So I took on f6, he took, and I went b4. And I decided, you know what, yes, he can attack with his king, but I'll just protect with my bishop, and he won't be able to take my pawn, whereas I will be able to form a passed pawn over on the king side, which is not true. I'm not able to create the passed pawn, so this is what happens. He activates his king very technically sharp, very precisely. So now he prevents me from going d3 and cutting the circulation between this bishop and the g6 pawn. I really wanted to go d3 here, but he doesn't allow that. Obviously, I go g4. Okay, I'll try to make him, if he takes, to make him give me a passed pawn, because that would be at least some chance for me. This is still drawn because this bishop would control the h7 square, but at least I would have some counterplay of my own. But okay, he doesn't. After g4, he doesn't take, he doesn't have to take. He just goes bishop c2, which is a great maneuver. He really found the best moves in this endgame. He wants to go bishop d1, which he does after king f4. So king f4 is a very adventurous move. I decide to give up this pawn, because if he takes it, I can go king g5. That's what I was calculating. We already were in a kind of a mutual time trouble, but this is what I calculated, and I thought this might get dangerous, because if he takes, I take, and then I have h5, and this bishop is stuck protecting this pawn. Still, it's a draw, but I thought I can push for a win here. So king f4 was an attempt to push for a win, but I completely forgot that he has this bishop d1, a great move, praised by the computer, and already I'm worse. I still can draw the game after I take, and for example drop back to e3 or to e5, even better, to attack this pawn. But it gets a little bit uncomfortable. He will take one of my pawns. The computer finds some draw here. Still it's opposite size castling, but I cannot play in time pressure. I should learn, I should train more, because this is my problem. Once I get too low on time, I start panicking. And here I was starting panicking. I wanted to win so much, because the previous two games to Andrew I lost, as you might remember. So I wanted to win. I wanted to win at all costs. And I was like, what do I do? Where do I find the win? And I was like, my time is ticking. My clock is ticking. My time is already below like 1 minute, I think, something like that. And I'm like, okay, bishop d8. I'll attack the pawn. If he takes, I'll take. Even this, by the way, is much better for black, although the computer will hold this after a5 and bishop c5 check, and somehow this bishop, no, bishop c5 check actually loses. So actually this is already losing. Yeah, interesting. But he didn't take this pawn. He didn't have to. He just went b5. Bishop e7, I protect. It's tricky. Now the computer says it may be saved, but only with a perfect play by me, and I was not playing perfectly. Here I didn't know what to do. Again, I panicked. So in this position, I panicked in time trouble. I should have just taken and go king g3. And apparently this is a draw, because if he goes here, I go here, at least I have some passed pawn. He goes bishop g4, preventing my passed pawn from advancing. He has d4, but I just move my king here. And yes, he can go here and go e5 and form a passed pawn, but once he does this, I'm quick enough to enter with my king and prevent any advancement of the passed pawn. So that would be a draw, but I didn't have time to calculate, and I was panicking. I was not thinking straight, and instead of just trading off and forming this passed pawn, I went g5. I don't know what's the meaning of this move. This is stupid. I'm not going to advance the pawn further. I don't know. And f4, f5 will always be met by bishop c2 or bishop g4, and I will not be able to break through. But I don't know. My brain was fried. So he went king d3. Suddenly I see that my other pawn is fallen. Here I thought of going king e5, but I saw bishop f3 protecting the pawn and didn't like it. Turns out that this at least prolonged the agony, but I went king g3, and this is too passive. He just takes the pawn. I go f4. He blocks further advancement of my pawn, and now he is up a pawn, but practically he's up 2 pawns, the d pawn and the a pawn, because this f pawn, you could say that it doesn't exist. If we remove it from the board, nothing changes. Maybe it would be even better for me, because I can activate my king without this pawn. So I'm just making moves on autopilot. I already know that I'm lost. I try to hold on, but now he wins another pawn. And here I realized that, yeah, I've been outplayed in a brutal fashion. So here I resigned. My opponent in this game actually played an incredible endgame, showed incredible technique, and played at 96% accuracy. I played at 90% accuracy. So it's a pity that I lost a drawn endgame, that I could have played for 2 results only, win or draw, but it happens. Some important lessons for me: not to overpress in drawn positions. I hope you liked the video and the recap. If you did, please leave a comment, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell button, and see you in the next one. Bye-bye.